You're looking at Unrendered. My guest is the Honorable Sinclair Leacock. Yes, Sinclair, let's continue on this whole thing about interdependence and the fact that the majority of people who've migrated from St. Vincent, the largest collections of the diaspora, if you want, are in Brooklyn, is UK, and you're saying that is Toronto,
Montreal.
That is significant reason enough to keep us tied in a way where, well, you're not saying this. I'm asking you.
But I'd say that.
Is that
I would say that.
tied in a way where we must curb our foreign policy?
No, I wouldn't say that. I would not say curb our foreign policy. But I'm saying that any pragmatist and who has the national interest of St. Vincent and the Grenadines at heart would understand that for a multiplicity of reasons, that relationships with the United States, United Kingdom, and Canada ought to receive special attention.
Are you saying,
for trade reasons.
Are you saying that they're not receiving special attention now?
They're not receiving.
Because of the...
One does not get the
because
impression.
the flirtations
not
with Chavez,
not just the flirtations.
With, Ahmadinejad.
No, not just the flirtations. You're assisting me by identifying.
I'm
you are assisting me by identifying the
flirtation. Move the program
but
on.
I'm saying by the use of too strident language at times, and on other occasions, the discriminations that have ensued. You know, I recall one occasion, the Israeli delegation, for example, came to St. Vincent and the Grenadines. They were not seen by the St. Vincent government. We received them. But
the Israelis?
The Israelis.
Okay.
But it was clear the Israelis could not have been received by St. Vincent because of the relationship that we had with Iran. We had almost the same thing with the people from the Falkland Islands some time back, when they could not again be received by the government of St. Vincent and Grenadines because we had relationships with the Alba grouping, with Venezuela and Argentina, etc. You're not fooling anybody.
You're aware, of course, that the Falklands people are a department of the UK, really. And
I'm aware of that.
So there was perhaps not the right protocol measures.
It wasn't a protocol thing. They were snubbed. Straight and simply, they were snubbed.
You know, I spoke to Dr. Gonzalez on that, funny enough. I'm trying to think if it was on a program or it was just a chat.
You spoke to Mr. Houston on it as well?
No.
Did you speak to Mr. Houston?
I sought an explanation.
From Dr. Gonzalez?
Yes.
And
there was no explanation required from Mr. Eustace. Mr. Eustace received them. I sought an explanation why they were not received or why it appeared as if they were not received. And I was told that, you know, if he was the chief minister of Montserrat, he could not just turn up in Canada, for example, and want to see the Prime Minister of Canada. Britain would have to write or initiate that visit. And so vice versa. That was not done with the people from the Falklands.
But to your credit,
is that a reasonable explanation, Sinclair?
No, I think the smile on your face answered the question, and I would only be honest.
You are trying to
no.
to frame me.
I'm not trying to frame it.
I'm asking you questions.
I'm putting it to you with as much candor that I can. That too often the Prime Minister is a stranger to the truth on these matters of national import. And that is not different to the answer that he gave last week, for example, to suggest that the letters that came out of Venezuela with respect to the Unrendered uprising were written by opposition forces.
And as you brought it up, I have it down here to talk about. Let's roll straight.
I mean, let's roll straight into that. That's the kind of nonsense that we hear from.
Let's roll straight into excuses. The Venezuelan issue, because I have it down to talk about, and I think we've spent enough time on the other matter. Tell me about this. And it's one that I'm intrigued by.
Yes.
Are we suggesting that the DPP did not act independently?
I don't think he acted independently.
That's your opinion?
Yeah, that's my opinion. And I speak about a person for whom I have respect as a friend, an old student, and I hope we could have continued cordial relationships, you know. I mean, the things that we've had to explain away with respect to the Unrendered uprising. In the first case, Tony, let me tell you candidly, an incident takes place in Union Island in which 4 people are killed. The first person on the scene to take charge of investigation and inquiry is the Prime Minister. I don't think that's his place. That's for the Commissioner of Police or departments of the police force. He should be so long behind the police forces, this isn't funny. I don't understand why the rush. Nobody has been able to give an intelligent explanation for the so-called Venezuelan ship breaching territorial waters and to be selling soap powder even the DPP couldn't give a clear position as to why it is.
Let's
speak the whole history of these things.
Go ahead, because I want to get back on the so-called
the explanations as to whether the guy was a customs guard or whether he was a customs officer, or these legalese, whereas the control of customs is making it emphatic that he was there in the official capacity, that customs is the authorized agency to board ships.
Right.
This boat has entered our waters without permission, and the guy was, and no one had approached him or any of his senior officers for a statement on the shooting of one of his staff. And this was in sharp contrast to the explanation that had been provided by the DPP before. Now I see some cross-trading between the DPP and the control of customs, and I hope he holds his peace, because it looks ugly, you know. But you can't tell me that in 3 months we could have come to a conclusion that there was insufficient evidence.
The DPP, and I'm gonna try to have him on this program, but the DPP says, and I listened to him on a radio station that he called into, and he gave a string of reasons why there was not enough for him to carry forward the thing. And he said quite emphatically, he challenges any judge, any jurist in the Caribbean to come, and or any part of the world for that matter, I think he said, to challenge his his decision. So he seems to be fairly strong. I'm not putting the DPP on trial here,
but Tony, I just string any less the sets of coincidences. The two men who came on the boat, the captain didn't know who they are.
So let's get to the bottom of it.
One got killed, one got injured.
Sinclair Leacock, and I'm
not even going to ask. I'm
not even going to ask you if this is your party's position.
It's not my party.
Yeah,
your citizens don't buy the story.
Your position is that Venezuela did a deal with the St. Vincent government to get those men back to Venezuela.
You know, I actually, Tony, was coming back to St. Vincent on the night of that matter. And I was arriving following the burial of my brother in Atlanta.
Yes.
And I was in the immigration line. Thankfully, a police immigration officer extended the courtesy to have me out of the line and fast-track me. But while that was happening, Tony, the Venezuelans were in the VIP lounge. VIP lounge exiting St. Vincent. I don't, as a member of parliament with a diplomatic passport, don't exit St. Vincent through the VIP lounge. Nor is it necessary.
So you're saying they're being given special attention?
But it was special treatment.
Yes.
And
it would be.
And that makes the case. They were in the VIP lounge.
Yes.
No, that is governmental intervention, Tony. And it smells rotten stink.
What is the NDP going to do about this?
But it's not the first incident, Tony. Remember, we had a situation earlier than that in 2007 in the same Grenadines water when coke ended up floating on the beaches, and the commissioner of police asked members if it came wash ashore, they must bring it into the police and so on and so forth, and we had boats blown up and disappeared. It's a recurring story.
The issue of drugs being moved from south to north is not one.
We're not speaking about drugs. We're speaking about the apparent license for Venezuelan boats in the Grenadines waters to do what they like, to use Calypso language.
So are you saying, because this is something new that you're introducing here, are you saying that there seems to be a hands-off affair, hands-off approach rather,
but it is so.
to Venezuelan boats that come in here, trading in drugs, etc.
And I got in trouble with it.
And you're saying that this is possibly a government agreement between the government of St. Vincent.
I don't think it's a government agreement. I think it's a government turning the blind eye. I got in trouble with it one time in Parliament. I attempted to raise the fact that they were selling fuel in the Grenadines, only to discover that to the extent that the people in the Grenadines appreciated the cheaper fuel, I might have been barking up a wrong tree. And since I have not touched it again.
I want to summarize what, and conclude what you've just said, because I find this to be troubling, if that's the case. If we're saying that the government, the Unity Labour Party government, turns a blind eye and therefore condones the trafficking of drugs by Venezuelans in these waters because of their relationship with Venezuela. Now that is a serious claim that you're making.
No, that's your construction, not mine.
Okay, I'm asking you, is that what you're saying? Because that's how I have summarized.
I am saying that the government has turned a blind eye of the presence of the Venezuelans.
So they're condoning it. Let's cut to the chase.
If you want to substitute blind eye for condoning,
I will in this case.
I'm not uncomfortable with your preferred language.
Yes.
But for me to go on and to say that the government is involved in supporting the Venezuelan being involved in drug trade would be strong language. And I would leave that
But
to your
in your
better
soft
judgment.
language, you are inferring that.
That's not my inference.
What are you inferring?
I
What are you
speak
inferring?
categorically that they turn a blind eye.
And therefore condoning it.
That's your preferred language, and I'm not going to challenge you on that.
Sinclair, I'm not a politician, so I can't do the antics with semantics. I just have to be straight, and I would infer based on
maybe we
on
should
your
take a
soft
time.
language.
We should take a time out on that one. I would go no further.
Okay,
yeah.
let's time out on it. Let's go to an issue that before you came onto this program, you were very hot under the collar about. You took
Why you
particular
why you represent me these ways as being hot under the collar?
because I spoke to you and I got your sense,
Yes.
your emotions.
Okay.
I hosted a program with Stephen Joachim and Chester Connell,
Yes.
and they concluded that it was time for your leader to bow out. It was a direct question I asked them, and that's what the answer that they gave. And that seemed to have been making the rounds since that program 2 weeks ago.
Where on
radio stations.
Which radio stations?
I've heard it on Hot. I have heard it. It's been written up in the newspaper.
No, but that's
Sinclair.
yes.
Yeah, so it's in the media.
Because I want to make sure that you're not represented to be an NDP.
I heard it on WFM this morning.
Yes.
Where Dr. Linton Lewis was discussing that with.
Did you hear it yesterday by Burns Bondy?
I wasn't listening to Burns.
Well,
Bondy.
what Burns Bondy said yesterday on that subject matter?
What did he say?
He said that a former head of the Lottery Authority, who had been appointed there by Arnhem Eustace,
Right.
is now calling Arnhem Eustace.
Right. So that's a spin.
To resign.
Okay, that's a
Well,
spin.
that's an interpretation.
Yeah.
It's not a spin, it's an interpretation.
Right.
In other words, much political weight has been assigned to the statements by Mr. Connell and Mr.
And that's fine. What I'm going with you is that you are particularly offended by it.
Well, I let me tell you, I am offended by it for more ways than one. Starting with Mr. Connell's remarks.
Yeah.
Because it was a second assault on the leadership of the New Democratic Party. Not just the leader, the leadership. In a previous interview with yourselves, in which I assume that he was buying over an argument from some of the matters that I don't care to return to at this moment. In reference to myself, he said that essentially Mr. Eustace had failed. I'm summarizing the statement.
Yes.
And Leacock would represent the same old khaki pants.
Let's pause you right there. I am doing this as if it's a soap opera, pausing each segment on a high point. But I must do because my producer is telling me that I have to go to the break. So when we come back, we'll pick it up.
Yeah.
This is Unrendered, and I'm chatting with the Honorable Sinclair Leacock. We'll be into our last segment when we come back.
Sure.